would like to invite Mr. Vikas Anand, who is VP Sales and Partnership Head of Growth from Botminds AI. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Thank you very much. When we talk about Botminds, we're talking about how you can enhance and take care of your business processes. So we're not going to be talking about the manufacturing processes per se, which is what we'll talk about. I think the other participants will come through. So what is the AI edge that we can bring in within the manufacturing process? And I present a view to you. We'll start again with a quick poll. If you could scan the barcode or go to the slide and put this number. Question is, if AI could solve just one challenge in your manufacturing operations today, what would it be, or what would you like it to be? So far we have data across multiple systems. Okay, we'll take this at the point. So the key challenge really, as you have all kind of put through, is the data is across multiple systems which essentially exists. And data really is the key. That's where Industry 4.0, I think the digital part that was picked up a minute ago, comes as a very important piece. The second and third really is too many manual processes slowing us down, and we want AI, but we don't know where to start. And I think that also becomes a very critical point. So you asked about the point, I want to start POC, where do I get the margin, how do I justify that? And that's a practical problem that exists with every business here. So what my effort in the next 15 minutes would be try and give you a view on what a platform like Botminds has done within the manufacturing space. What are the different things that different organizations have done? What is it that we have done? What kind of benefits, what kind of outputs, in a very small, simple way. All right. A key point that I want to mention is the manufacturing is basically built on precision. Everything that gets done, gets produced is very, very important, very precise. But most of this data really sits on the outdated manual processes, and data is really, really fragmented. You've given that feedback just a minute ago on the poll. Let's see how we go ahead and change this entire piece. So I picked this up from Gartner, and they have this use case prism for manufacturing. The way to read this is slightly complicated, but this piece means this is easier to implement. This piece means difficult to implement. There's a way in which prism needs to be read. But the way I took this point really here is that you've got the information about product development, designing. You have other pieces from the generation part of it, material process efficiency. You've got the synthesis of the data for the AV as well. So different manufacturing organizations would have different takeaways from there, quite obviously. The key point is it's a very, very important piece. There are certain things which are on the higher feasibility. There are certain things which are on low. There are certain things that can give you good value and certain things that will give you low value. So the good idea would be try it out, of course, and of course see where others are doing this, this kind of activity, and maybe pick up those, because the moment you pick up the high value and high feasibility and something that has been done already, you would have a lot of POCs, you would have a lot of validation within the industry that will say that, look, they have done it, this is the kind of output, let's go there, rather than spending time to figure out, I've got all this data, where do I start? So at least you get that starting point with something like that. Okay. But there are bottlenecks in manufacturing. We all know you are the subject matter experts in manufacturing. And the way we understand it, having worked with a lot of organizations, is it is about complexity, variability, and inefficiency. We all know this very well. Complexity is you have a lot of different processes. You've got data silos. You have complex operating environment. You're talking about the data that is variable, different supply data, different contract, different vendors. We do some work with vendor onboarding, contracts, invoices. Every vendor has their own format. If you want to put an RPA on it, if you want to put an OCR on it, it doesn't work. Your team still has to do a lot of work together. When it comes down to contracts, they're not just single pages. There are a lot of things that kind of need to be addressed there. So there's a lot of variability that is there. Thirdly, it all leads to inefficiency because you have things which are, of course, time-consuming. You get the errors, you get the delays, and I think there are a lot of organizations who have a lot of manual processes that are put in place. And the reason why it becomes difficult to automate that is because all the knowledge is here in me as an SME. I haven't documented, it hasn't been put together as such. So you don't know what to automate, you don't know where to start, you don't know what data to kind of give in. So these are the different challenges that essentially exist, on the ground. And we are talking here about generative AI. It's been a buzzword and an actual technology that is used. For the last 2-3 years now, AI has been there for decades, but from a generative AI perspective, most of people think Gen AI equals to ChatGPT or something similar, right? All of you probably know that it's not just that. Generative AI is the underlying technology that allows you to do a lot of information synthesis, gathering, production, creation, image generation, video generation, digital avatar generation. You can span to a lot of different things. But what we are going to talk about here from Botminds' perspective is we've got data. How do we understand this data better? AI has been there for decades, but it has just shot up the curve. Everybody's talking about it because all the time it used to take to train has now shrunk down to something really small because there are generative AI models, large language models, open AI models, et cetera, available that can reduce that specific time, get the understanding of a large amount of data very, very fast. So the whole idea has gone from reactive to proactive operations. What Botminds brings you is ready out-of-the-box solution. We have certain solutions on display today. We have that available. We integrate with your legacy systems, with your CRMs and ERPs. The very first poll that I did, the data is existing at different silos. That's really a challenge there, so we have the ability to build that out. Also, it is a no-code specific platform, which means you kind of have to rely on IT department, yes, but it doesn't really require you to have developers and IT and 6 months budget and a year worth of budget. You could probably do something within 2 to 3 weeks and get I would say proof of concept, but get a slight bit of idea and vision of this is what it could be. And I've just spent maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks on it, right? Rather than a very long amount of time. So in the next couple of slides, I'm going to try and cover these different areas on how we brought these to actual reality. Some of the customers that we're currently working with, these would have a mix of implementation, POCs, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't matter, but the key point is the problem that came to us, how we solved it, the kind of benefit that everybody kind of got out of that. And this would be tenders, invoices, regulatory compliance, bills of material, SOP, and contract automation. So let's start with the first one. So here we have a lot of tender documents coming through. Tenders, as you all understand, is a very, very massive set of document. We have a full demo running at our booth. You can take a look there. But a single tender document could be 400, 500 pages, but it is never a single document. It's always dozens and dozens of documents there. To be able to respond back to a tender or to be able to assess, should we respond? Is it within my timeline? Is it within the risk appetite that my organization has? Is a week-long work to get to the point that you see on the right side. It takes roughly about 5 days, 7 days to get to the point because everybody has to, or the team has to go through these 25, 30, 40 documents, which are all 100, 200 pages to figure out compliance and so on and so forth. Or they do it faster by just going and say, let me control F and find a word. If it is there, that's great. If it is not, never mind about it, right? Then you're risking a lot of compliance issue there. But to get a good side of it, it takes that much time. What we did, once we had done this part, was from tender ingestion to the compliance, this was about 30 minutes. So once you get the tender, you upload it. Once the tender is uploaded, within 30 minutes, you get a compliance report and say, okay, that's what it looks like. Okay, that's the first thing. Second important thing, it adds no value to me if this is a generic compliance report. I don't care what organization A, B, C is doing. It is about my organization's compliance. So I could upload this to an eGPT or an LLM and get my team to build something there, but that's not value. What we did was we took in the past documents, past submissions, risks, compliances, and we fed that as part of our model here. So this model is catering uniquely to your organization, not the rest of the world, your organization. What is high risk for you? What is low risk for you? What is acceptable for you? You get that within 30 minutes, right? So that's the value add that we provided here from a tender perspective. Of course, you can do a lot of other things, summary tab, extraction, decision making, conversation, report generation, dashboarding, all of that is available, but this is a very, very important value add. Second comes in with the invoices and the SAP integration. I spoke about the fact that invoices come in a variety of different shapes and forms. Every vendor has a different kind of a format, different template. In certain cases, you may even have, what should I say, the service reports and service receipts that need to be automated. They could have handwritten information. They could have a circle on the red mark, whatever as the case may be. That's really not a problem. Botminds can definitely handle that. And we brought in about 98% of the operational efficiency when it came down to processing. Invoice processing also requires reconciliation, which would have your 4i principle, 3i check, 3-way check, whichever is required. Absolutely done perfectly fine. And this is just a snapshot. I didn't want to bring any demos to this 10 minutes that I have. But a very, very important piece. Now, having just NoCR could solve part of the problem, but the idea for a digital transformation is your end-to-end, no touch point. Like somebody here mentioned earlier about the flour being done from a wheat all the way to supplying, it's a zero touch point. That's really digital transformation. If I've got people sitting in the middle, that's really not transformation to a larger extent. So you then have the ability to post or pull the information to your underlying SAP systems and other systems as well. That works too. Then comes the third important part, which is regulatory compliance. And this is important because we're just talking about flame incident that really happened. And that's, years ago I would pass by and I would see a flame. I was trying to figure out exactly it's fire or it's controlled. Everybody has a question. But from a compliance perspective, whether you talk about ESG, whether you talk about regulatory compliance, whether you talk about the other parts of it, you want to make sure that any document, any data that you're currently doing, you have a way of checking the compliance. The regulatory compliance is changing every, I should say, month, quarter, financial year, budget, I don't know. Whichever frequency that is, it changes. So people need to be updated with that compliance, whether I'm putting that compliance into my contracts or I'm putting that compliance into my tenders or my SOPs. It needs to be updated. We also are governed by multiple different types of compliance, from environment compliance itself to RBI guidelines, for example. How do we make sure that whatever we are doing is taken care of from all of these respective compliance? It's practically not feasible to rely completely on a manual team to be able to do that. Our platform exactly can go ahead, can keep a track on what the regulatory compliances are. You can specify, you can rely on us and say, look, these are the 5 things that matter to me. Anytime that changes, the backend has to update. I have to get everybody updated on it. I have to trigger a SOP update. I have to trigger a retraining update. Whatever as the case may be, it follows through on that. And the example that you see here is the ESG, where you're talking about the emissions. And the source of this typically is a very, very large, complicated annual report, sustainability report, which goes into hundreds and hundreds of pages, and you want to be able to find the information out there. Next is the bills of material. This is, again, we're getting to the trenches of the manufacturing part of it. You have tenders, you've got the bills of material, then you have the P&ID diagrams, and it becomes very complicated. The example that you see there is a data sheet from where the information needs to be collated. It needs to be synthesized. It needs to be verified against the tenders. Then you have to verify against the diagrams, and then you have to create a bills of material so that you can place an order. So an end-to-end multi-step process that needs to be addressed, something that we absolutely handle as part of the platform as well. SOP compliance is a very critical part. We are taking 2 steps forward within the SOP. One is you have the SOPs in the organizations created. Some of our clients came back and said, we got an audit done, and we were told that the language used within the SOP is really very basic English. English is not a first language for any one of us. It's a very basic English language. So it needs to have a little bit more proper, a little bit more official SOP language that needs to work. The SOPs are extremely large. So we have a process where we can read through your SOPs and recommend what the language should be, and you can go ahead and update that second part of it. Second, SOP compliance becomes challenged because for me, if I'm working, my SOP is right here. I know it. I've been here 4 years, 3 years. I know exactly what needs to be done. I probably never look at the document. Even if I try to look at a document, I don't know where the document is, and it's too big for me to go through. These are practical challenges, right? And we can bring that part to the shop floor as well through a speech-to-text, text-to-speech conversion, where a blue-collar worker can just press a button with this, talk to it, get the answer. All of that can be done with the SOP updation/compliance piece. Couple of other things, batch manufacturing records. It is a large piece done in a pharma organization and others as well, where you have an exercise that is done every year, and then it has a couple of 100 pages with the handwritten information that needs to be tallied, that needs to be matched. Then you have to be able to generate some recommendations there, and then you need to digitize it. Then it needs to go to your SAP. Then it needs to go to your, the batch manufacturing details to say this is the batch that we manufactured, and so on and so forth. A lot of pharma organizations do not do this every year because it's such time-consuming to convert this handwritten audit report into your actual batch manufacturing. They do it every 3 or 4 years, and that can essentially be taken care of with a solution like this. Similar way on the supply chain, as well in terms of getting the actionable insights in real-time reports. This is one case study I want to spend a minute around where you basically have a challenge of contract automation, and we helped save roughly 5 million, add a 5 million value to one of our customers. The challenge really is in terms of the access to information. The contracts are there, they've been sorted, they've been put through into a particular repository. The knowledge management doesn't exist in terms of the contract patterns. This could be creation of the contract. This could be accessing the contracts as well. The standardization across workflows, delays in manual routing. You have risk and compliance challenge, which we've spoken about. Business intelligence, there's no actionable insights coming in from your contracts. Within manufacturing, within the tenders, you have 3 parts. I would want to either write a tender, I want to respond back to a tender, or I want to keep a check that the tender that was awarded, am I doing as per that commitment, right? So all these 3 things are extremely important. So to be able to get that done, we leverage our platform and we gave this output to this customer of ours, where they have faster contract cycles, and of course, we made a $5 million impact to them within the first year. Our platform is a vertically integrated, unified platform. It combines the ability for knowledge, automation, and intelligence. So you get the end-to-end automation done. You have the ability to extract insights and knowledge. To go from data to a insight or a dashboard typically is a week's worth of an exercise. If we all be honest here, you have a team that sits down and converts your even structured data to insights. With Botminds, you have the ability to get real-time insights. You get your tender document, your insights and dashboards are ready in real time. That's really the value add. And lastly, some of the organizations that we currently work with, you've kind of seen the name there, in the previous one as well. But just to give you a point that these are large organizations with variety of different scenarios and problem statements, not necessarily just manufacturing, but variety of different problem statements and scenarios as well. So we address all of that. Last slide, and I'm done with that. If you could just take, once again, the same QR code, same process, sign this up. And let's see if I made an impact in what I just presented, and anybody can pick up on what those things were. So what is the biggest measurable benefit AI delivers to manufacturing? Fantastic. I'll let this run. Thank you very much for your time. I'm happy to take any questions that may be there for me.
Hi, I'm Pallavi from Colgate, and very good use cases, and just one, because we are talking about all the confidential data here.
Yeah.
We're talking about contracts,
Yeah.
invoices, tenders.
Yeah.
So how do you ensure that the security part of it, or the general liability clause, or those kind of things, because all the data that is going is somewhere getting
Absolutely.
stored in cloud,
Absolutely.
and those are the main sensitive parts for
Perfect.
any organization.
Thanks for that question, Pallavi. I think Mr. Kapil also mentioned that the moment I have an IoT data, it simply goes somewhere else. So that's very, very important. We take that very seriously. So we are a SaaS platform, so it runs in the cloud, but we have a private cloud and dedicated cloud offered as well. To synthesize that, you would not be using the Botminds in a generic way. You would basically have the Botminds deployed in your own private cloud, which means whatever exists in your control. The models that are built and deployed are in your environment. The data that is read and pushed out is in your environment. Also, the large language model that we use the enterprise version of anything else that's available. That also guarantees that your data will not be shared. And whatever we do from the compliance perspective or the models that we build does not make Botminds better. So it doesn't give me a value and I can go and sell it. Like, I got it from Colgate, do you want that? I cannot do that. It's only the foundation models that we build to say we understand the industry, we understand contracts. For your specific pieces, it's completely unique to you.
Yeah, good morning. This is Amit Shingewar from Galaxy Surfactants. So I have two specific questions. So the use cases what you have shown are precisely where we are facing challenges. So those are very good use cases, But now with respect to the large language models, like the other are there, the very popular like Copilot, etc. So how do you compare your platform with respect to them? In terms of the technology, applicability, and commercial as well. And the other thing is I couldn't see, because we are facing more challenges in terms of training and development also. So is there any, how do you see your platform can help us into that? Not the training to the bots, but to the workforce, and keeping the record and, rating them and do skill evaluation or skill development, etc. In this is the gray area which we are focusing, facing challenges, where we are seeking the technology in industry 4. If can we have sort of solutions to overcome this challenge?
Sure. So 2 questions. What is the large language model difference between the Copilots and Botminds? And how do you take care of the training requirement?
Yeah.
Okay. So Copilot is a solution product Microsoft has built on OpenAI. OpenAI, will not go too technical here. OpenAI has 2 versions. One is the ChatGPT's OpenAI, one is Microsoft's OpenAI. This ChatGPT version is sold, given, because they have so much stake on it. They have the version, but these are 2 different. So when you use Copilot, your data is not going to ChatGPT. When you use ChatGPT, it's ChatGPT itself. But at the end of it, they are 2 large language models. We use the enterprise version of Microsoft to build our own solution. Copilot is a competition for us, as an example, right? So we don't use Copilot, but we use a similar technology. At the same time, we use other large language models as well, like Llama, Mistral, Claude, and now DeepSeek. You can choose anything that you want. In certain cases, you may want something that resides on-prem with you, which means you don't want to go to the cloud. It's massively expensive, but it's possible. Copilot typically only, as of now, is happy to do the work in Microsoft Office. It cannot handle your massive documents, handwritten scan pages. We take care of all of that, right? So that's at a very high level, how we differentiate ourselves. And you could probably download a Chrome plugin to solve some of your generative AI problem, but it solves that one thing. What the enterprise requires is that that one thing should be done by every single employee in the same way, with the same consistent output that I have approved for the mass. It is not that I can go to ChatGPT and I can ask a question because I'm from manufacturing. I'm going to use Colgate as an example. And you're also the employee from there, but you ask different complete questions. So that requires you and I to be trained to be able to do that. With Botminds, you take that training away. You bring the consistency. Everybody gets that capability, but they get simple questions they can ask in normal English, simple sentences. They don't need to know how to write something specific. And they get consistent responses, every single one of them. Happy to show it to you there. From a training, I know we need to go on to the next one. From the training, we have done some work from the education side of it, where we're talking about grading, we're talking about math classes, et cetera, et cetera. A lot can be done there, but it'll be nice to understand what the specific requirement is. Do you have documentation which you want people to go back and forth with? Do you want to create smaller learning modules with that? I think we can do something there, but I'm happy to speak with you later. Okay. All right, with that, I'll give it back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Vikas,
Thanks.
for an insightful session.
Thank you.